to see you guys tonight. Thanks for the opportunity that I could come and talk to you. Those of you who come on Sunday mornings get a good dose of me for weeks and weeks at a time. Although my wife is speaking this Sunday, so that if you're deciding to go somewhere else, you'll want to be here for that because she's really good. Yeah. She's really good. And I'll be speaking the week after that. But thank you guys for being here. You guys are awesome. My heart is still a little bit in youth ministry, although I've been out of youth ministry for a long time. I was a youth pastor for a long time, and so my heart is still kind of in youth ministry, and that's why I'm so proud of you guys and what you guys have accomplished, and just I love hanging out with you. I love seeing you guys, and so way to go. Just keep inviting people and keep doing what you're doing. And you guys have like the greatest youth pastor in the world and his wife. Yeah. Both. Brooklyn and Mitchell are awesome, and I'm so glad that they're here, and I don't want them to ever leave, and hopefully they won't ever. But thank you guys for being here. Hey, I'm going to talk to you guys tonight. Have you heard of Le'Veon Bell? Are any of you athletic people keep up with Le'Veon Bell? Do you know what's happening with Le'Veon? Le'Veon Bell is like a football player, all right? Do we have his picture? Okay. Le'Veon Bell is a football player. He's decided that he needs more money because he's not getting paid enough. They've given him a franchise tag. If you don't know what that is, look it up. You can Google it. But they were giving him a franchise tag, so he was going to make $14.5 million this year. He didn't want that. He wanted more because he's a better player than that. He wanted 70 mil. All right? They weren't going to give that to him. So it got down to them arguing over. He wanted $17 million guaranteed if he got hurt, if he didn't play. All he had to do was show up, and they were going to give him, he wanted 17. They didn't. They said 14.5 is all you're going to get. Well, that's just not enough. So he decided that he wasn't going to show up for practice. So they said, fine, we're giving you a deadline. If you don't show up, we're not going to pay you. So they didn't pay him. So this, just yesterday at 4 p.m. was his deadline. If you don't show up for practice by 4 p.m. yesterday, you're out for the season. You're not going to get paid. You're not going to be on this team. You don't get to play this year. All he had to do was show up, and they were going to give him $14.5 million. That's all he had to do. How many of you could live on $14.5 million? How many of you could live on $14,500? How many of you could live on $140 for right now? That would be, okay. You couldn't do that. So all he had to do, he didn't show up. He didn't show up. He thinks he's worth more than that, so he's not going to play for the Steelers. Let's see what happens to him next week. What do you think that does to all the guys on the team with Le'Veon Bell? You think that makes them like him more or like him less? Why? No, less. Why? Why? Because he's selfish, and who is he thinking of? Who does he have in mind? Money. Himself, money, that's it. That's it. All he cares about is, I want you to pay me what I think I'm worth. I want you to pay me what everybody else is paying their feature backs. Well, you know what's happened? He hasn't shown up this year, and so the second place back actually has been outperforming him from his numbers in the past. Their second place back is running touchdowns, has got more yards than Le'Veon had last year when they were paying him what he thought he was worth. Yeah. So what the guy's done, he shot himself in the foot because he thinks that he's worth more than what he is. He has overvalued himself. He's only concerned about himself. He's not concerned about the team. I'm telling you, if I'm playing football, I want someone who's willing to sacrifice themselves for the team, right? I want someone who's going to show up and say, if I got to take a pay cut, I'm going to take a pay cut. But you guys collectively are more important than I am individually. So if I'm going to be on your team and if you're going to be on my team, it's important for all of us to fight and to be on the same team and have equal sacrifice together. Here's the thing. When it comes to Christianity and when it comes to us being Christians, that's what we are. You guys are a family. Momentum is a family. We are a group of people, of teenagers and young adults who come here who say, you know what? None of us are perfect, okay? Okay, maybe Chloe, but no one else is really perfect. But none of us are perfect, but we all come with issues. We all come with things that we're dealing with. We all come with crazy parents. We all come with crazy teachers and all that kind of stuff that happens. We all come together like that. But here's the thing. We are all going to fight together, and we are going to learn some way, somehow, we're going to figure out a way to turn this thing around and be victorious in what we do. Now, let's jump into the Bible. I want to show you a couple of stories in the Bible, at least, or one story specifically in the Bible that just illustrates this. 2 Samuel, the 23rd chapter. I just got a couple of verses to look at. 2 Samuel, 23rd chapter. If you guys brought your Bibles, you can use those. If not, you can look it up on your phones or Google. How many of you guys have YouVersion on your phones? Isn't that cool? If you don't have it, get it on your phone, because YouVersion is actually one of the very first apps that came out for phones. And it's a Bible app. So you have all different kinds of Bible versions on there. You got study helps, you got Bible studies, all that kind of stuff is on there. It's really cool. So if you don't have it, YouVersion, it's just in the shape of a Bible, download it because you will use it. So this verse is found in 2 Samuel, the 23rd chapter, and we're going to start reading at verse number 8. And I'm going to try to read all these really crazy names, all right? Are they up there? They are. Okay, I'm going to read off the screen up here because I've never done that before, and that's pretty cool that it's up there. Okay, these are the names of David's mighty warriors. And it doesn't even have the full name there. This guy's name is Josheb Bashabeth Techmonite. Pretty big word, huh? Was chief of the three. So there were three mighty men that we're talking about here. Was chief of the three. He raised a spear against 800 men whom he killed in one encounter. Okay, hang on. Think about that for just a second. 800 men who he killed in one encounter. So this is one guy. He went to battle, won against 800, and he killed all 800. I don't know, there could have been more than that, but he killed 800 out of however many were there, and he didn't get killed. This is a stud. I mean, this is pretty awesome, right? This guy's pretty good. Okay, here's the next one. Next to him is Eleazar, son of Dodai, the Ahohite, all right? As one of the three mighty men, he was with David when they taunted the Philistines gathering at Pas Damin, I don't know, something like that, from battle. Did I just cuss? I don't think I did. From battle. Then the men of Israel retreated. But he stood his ground and struck down the Philistines till his hand grew tired and froze to the sword. The Lord brought about a great victory that day, and the troops returned to Eleazar, but only to strip the dead. Okay, so get this picture. Here they are in battle, and it says they went to taunt the Philistines. So they're out there making fun of them, yelling at them, waving at them, come on up here, probably calling them names. I mean, they're bad-mouthing them. You know, they're trash-talking them, all this kind of stuff, trying to get these guys mad. So they get the guys mad, and finally David and his guys say, listen, it ain't worth it, let's go. So they take off and start going back to camp, to get some coffee or something. I don't know what they did. And all of a sudden they look around, and where's Eleazar? Eleazar's not there. Where's Eleazar? He was just with us. Where is he at? And they hear this rumble in the background, and they look over. Look, you guys, check him out over there. And there's Eleazar. He's down in the battlefield with his sword, and he's just chopping these guys up. He's battling all of these guys. He's beating them. I mean, it's just amazing. They come at him. I don't know if the Philistines finally had enough or figured that 500 to 1 was better odds. So all they knew is that they were going to go and they were going to fight. So here they are. They're chopping these guys, and he's fighting them. And the scripture says that he fights so hard that his hand was frozen to the sword. Have you ever like had a hammer, or have you done something like you're doing PlayStation and you play for so long that when you take your hands off of the controls, it's like, have you ever done that? Yeah. Have you ever done that? When I was a band guy when I was in junior high school. You didn't even know that, did you? Yeah, I was a band guy when I was in junior high school, and I played the trumpet. And I can remember marching in the band, and as I marched in the band, I had to hold my trumpet. And I remember walking for so long that when it was time to pull my trumpet up, my hand was like frozen. I couldn't hardly move it. I had to like pull my fingers off of it. You know, you've had that experience? That's what happened to Eleazar. He was ferocious in what he did, to the extent that his hand was actually around that sword and he couldn't take his hand off of it. He's the kind of guy that you want to go to battle with. He's the kind of guy that you want to be one of your mighty men, to be a friend of yours, to be someone who you're going to church with and you're serving, because he's the kind of guy that's going to go to battle. Let me tell you something. Every one of you here, you want friends like that. You want people who will go to battle for you. You want guys and girls who, when someone tries to say something about you, they say, no, that's not the truth. And if I got to beat all you guys up, I'll do it, because you're not going to badmouth my friend like that. Or when they text something about you, or you see something on Instagram or whatever about somebody else, you defend them. You want somebody you want someone who's got your back, who's going to be looking out for you in all these circumstances. Because listen, you guys, that's the only way that we as a group, as a family, are going to win. Any one individual of you guys here, I mean, there's some talented people here. There's some smart people here. There's probably some rich people here. I don't know. If you are, come see me, because we need money to pay this building off. There's some of you guys that are extremely talented. You got great things going for you. But let me tell you this, not any individual here has the ability on your own to make it in life. You need the strength of people who are around you. You need somebody who's got your back. You need somebody who's encouraging you, who's telling you can make it. You need someone who's going to fight next to you and fight beside you. If we are ever going to win at what we do, we've got to learn some way to turn this ship around and get it going in the right direction. So I'm going to give you 4 things tonight, all right? I'm going to try to talk as quick as I can and keep your interest. If you guys go to texting, I'll know that you're not interested in what I say, and I'll come slap you. No, I'm kidding. I won't. I wouldn't. Chloe's perfect, so I can't do anything to her. I won't. It'll be my way that I'll know. Listen, every one of you guys face battles. Whether it's the battle that you fight with friends, or the battle you fight with parents, or the battle you fight with your will, or the battle you fight with your weight, or the battle you fight with your confidence, or your ego, or your pride, or your unforgiveness. Every one of us have some kind of battle that we issue in life. And the only way you're going to fight this battle and win is if we as a group, as a family, come up next to you and help you through this process. And with God's help, we can make a success. We can be successful in what we do. So let me give you 3 things. Number 1 is this: remember where you came from. Remember where you came from. Israel's history is a long and diverse history. At this point in history, David was now becoming king. He was beginning to take over his kingdom. And David had this band of ruffians, these guys they called mighty men, and they were the top mercenaries in Israel at that time. David at this time was running from King Saul, because King Saul was trying to kill him, and they were out doing their thing, and all of these bad boys came and got around David and got close to him, and they pledged their allegiance to David, and they got close to David. Later, as David became king, he became the most fierce army that there was. And so now David and the army, and David and the Israelites are the fierce army. But if you go back just a few years before that, it was King Saul who was the one in control, and he was the one who was always trying to fight David. And if you go back a little bit before that, you go back to Abraham. And if you go back before that, you go to Moses, and you go to Joseph, and you go all the way back to Adam, and you go all the way back to these people who knew God, who wanted to serve God. They served God and were obedient for a little while, and then they would become disobedient. And then they were obedient for a while, and they would become disobedient. And they just had this history. It was like a roller coaster ride that kept going up and down, up and down. Why do we talk about Israel's history? Because Israel was the place that all of this began. It was the place that all this started. And how we look at Israel is that we can see how God affected Israel and what God did in Israel, and then we can apply that to our life. So we look at Moses, we look at Abraham, we look at all this kind of stuff. And when we see the history, we can understand what our past is so we know where we're going. Do you know the history of momentum? Have you guys ever talked about the history of momentum? Momentum is a youth group that started, I don't know, we were trying to figure out how long ago they started the word momentum, but I think probably like 10 or 12 years ago. Before that, the youth group was called Pulse. I've been here for 15 years. We've seen a bunch of youth pastors come through. I think the largest this group has ever gotten is probably 50, maybe 60 kids on a Wednesday night. And you guys, what's your large number for here? 65. So you guys are pushing that. You guys are pushing that. But the healthiest we've ever seen this youth group is probably what you guys are doing right now. I know the best youth pastors we've ever had is Mitch and Brooklyn. I would say Brooklyn and Mitch, but I need to say Mitch and Brooklyn. Is Mitch and Brooklyn. They're the best youth pastors we've ever had. And why they're so good is because they love you guys so much. That's one of the big reasons. And they're willing to go to battle for you. But this group, momentum has gone up, it's gone down, it's gone through good times, it's gone through bad times. We had a youth pastor we had to fire. We've had a lot of things happen through, but here's the one thing. This has always been a group where people were loved. It's always been a group where kids were welcomed. It didn't matter what color your skin was. It didn't matter how much money you had. It didn't matter what your sexual preference was. We've had them all. We've had them all. We've had ups and downs. We've had all this kind of stuff. But here, this thing, Momentum has a rich history. Momentum has always been a group of people who strove to love God in everything that they've done. And that's the history that you guys have. And I've known this group. I knew the group even before I came. I knew of the group years ago. But this is the best years. And you guys we got the best facility we've ever had. We've got the best location we've ever had. This group is poised to do something great. But we got to come together as a group of young people, a family of momentum, and make it happen. So you guys have a great, great history in what you've done. Okay, let me keep going. David's mighty men were enjoying the favor of God because of David's obedience. They enjoyed the favor of God because of David's obedience. When David was obedient to God, God blessed him. And in the same way, the reason that Momentum has been a great group and the reason that you guys have seen the success you've had is because you've been willing to obey what God has asked you to do. You've been willing to love people. You've been willing to go on missions trips. You've been willing to always reach out to people, to love any person that comes in here. You've always been obedient. And when you're obedient to what God wants you to do, God's going to bless that. God resists the proud. He stands against them. But when you're obedient, God will always favor you when you're obedient to God. Today we enjoy God's favor because it comes through our obedience. When we are obedient, God blesses that. God's favor to David was because he obeyed David. And God's favor to us is based on our obedience to God. God blesses us because of obedience. Before you will ever know where you're going in life, you first must know where you've come from. Before you ever know where you're going in life, you first must know where you come from. And this group comes from great history. This group comes from people who are overcomers, who maybe weren't the most popular kids, who maybe weren't the strongest, the richest, but you guys were kids, are staying in there, and you guys are doing the thing that you need to do. How many of you guys, let me see your hands, how many of you guys, last Saturday you were cheering for Oklahoma State? Let me see, Oklahoma State people. What? 3. How many of you guys were cheering for OU? I like your sweatshirt. Yes. How many of you really don't care? Okay, there we go. OU had a quarterback last year named Baker Mayfield. Have you ever heard of Baker Mayfield? Baker Mayfield was always an underachiever. Baker Mayfield didn't start when he was in high school until his junior year of high school. Then he started, and they won every game after that. So after Baker Mayfield graduated from high school, he was recruited by a couple of small colleges, but nobody ever gave him a look. He was too small. He was too slow. They were looking at stats. They were looking at his size, and they didn't think he had what it made. So he walked on at Texas Tech. I actually remember the first games of him playing down there because I watched Texas Tech. I had a friend that was a great fan of theirs, and so I would watch the games because I'd like to talk to my friend about it. Baker Mayfield walked on as a freshman and ended up the starting quarterback as a freshman walk-on. They had other guys on the team that were scholarshiped quarterbacks, but they let Baker Mayfield play in front of them. He walked on in the first, I think, 3 or 4 games. He won every game. They were undefeated their first 4 games, and then he got hurt, and he went out, and they put another quarterback in. And after that, they never gave him another chance. And so Baker decided at the end of that semester, okay, listen, they didn't think I could do it in high school, and I did it. I won a state championship. They didn't think I could do it in college. No one wanted to give me a scholarship. So he came and played, walked on at Texas Tech, and got the scholarship. Didn't get the scholarship, but he got the starting position. So he decided, I'm going to go to OU because that's where I've always wanted to play. His parents were OU grads. He says, I'm going to go to OU. So he walks on at OU. He walks up to Coach Stoops and says, my name is Baker Mayfield. I'm going to be your starting quarterback. And he said, okay, well, we'll see. We'll let you compete with all the other guys, but we'll see what you do. He got out there, and you know what he did? He ended up being the starting quarterback. Walked on at OU. Walked on at Texas Tech. He got to OU, and he became the starting quarterback, and he stayed. And you guys know the story. He won the Heisman Trophy. They never won a national championship. He won a Heisman Trophy. He went on to become the #1 draft pick to the Cleveland Browns, and now he's proving himself to the Cleveland Browns. But he has been a guy that nobody thought could make it. He's the guy like David that everybody thought, you're too small, you're not going to make it. But he always achieved more than what everybody else thought he could achieve. Man, that's the kind of people I want around me. I want people who push me on to do my very best work. I want people around me who are willing to fight, not give up, but people who are willing to get it going. Okay, number 2 is this. How are we going to get it turned around? Number 2 is remember who your enemy is. Israel dominated the Philistines for years. They taunted them. They make fun of them. And I guarantee you those Philistines got a little bit nervous when David and his mighty men came rolling in. When they heard the name of David, those Philistines got a little bit nervous because they knew who their enemy was and they were afraid of them. Let me ask you this, Momentum. What's Momentum known for? Is Momentum known for your great ability to love? Are you guys known for standing up for each other? Are you guys known for fighting for each other? If it comes to it, I'm going to stand up for you and I'm going to fight for you. Or is Momentum known for being kids that just kind of come and they're half-hearted and they come whenever, once in a while, whenever they want to, whenever something fun's happening. When DJ Turbo's here, we come, and the rest of the time, we're going to stay home. I'd rather play, Game Box or that's not even a thing, is it? What is it, GameCube? Xbox. I'd rather play Xbox. See? I'd rather play Xbox and go because, it's fun or whatever. What's Momentum known for? What's Momentum known for? I hope Momentum is known for a group of kids who are family. I hope Momentum is known for a group of kids who I have a need or an issue, I can come, and there's going to be people here that are going to talk to me and love me through that process. I hope Momentum is known for a group of people who know how to love. Anybody that comes in here is always going to be loved. We don't push anybody out. Doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from, doesn't matter. We're always going to love you. We're always going to reach out to you. That's what Momentum ought to be known for. When you say Momentum to your friends, it ought to make demons nervous. Because the devil knows that if you go to Momentum, you're going to get good teaching. And those kids down there, those young adults down there are going to love God with all their heart. They know what it takes, and they're willing to put it all on the line to fight for each other. I tell you, there's a bunch of kids out there that will only fight for you as long as you got another beer in the cooler. But when you run out of beer, they're gone. They're looking for somebody else because their friendship with you is based on what you can give them, not who you are as a friend. I'm so tired of this no judge zone. I don't judge you. I don't judge anybody. If you say that you're a certain way, I can't judge you and say you're not because that's your opinion of yourself. I got to tell you, sometimes just hearing what you guys say about yourself is wrong. You've been lying to yourself. You've been lying to yourself. I want to read something. Where's my phone? Is it? I get a text. I won't tell you who it's from, but I get a text. This is from a junior high girl. She was 13. And it's a big thing that she wrote, and they sent it to me. Let me read to you what it says, parts of it. Here's what it says. It says, this is what she says. Why nobody likes me. I'm useless. I'm annoying. I'm ugly. I'm stupid. I'm fat. I'm worthless. I'm irrelevant. I'm a joke. I'm a letdown. I'm overdramatic. I'm really ugly. I don't even know what that is. I'm a crybaby. I'm ugly. I'm ugly. I'm ugly. I'm ugly. I hate people. And she just keeps going. Here's the thing. This girl, in her quiet times, in the times that she's alone by herself, she has lied to herself so many times that she would rather believe the lie about herself than believe what someone else says. She has a boyfriend. Her boyfriend tells her she's pretty. She says, I don't think he knows what he's talking about. I don't really think he's telling me the truth. I don't really think he knows what he's talking about. She has lied to herself so much. You know what, you guys? Just because you feel a certain way about yourself doesn't mean that you're like that. Just because you have a friend that says, this is who I am, don't judge me. Listen, judging someone and telling someone the truth sometimes are different things. You have to be willing sometimes to say to guys and girls that you know that are always lying to themselves, you are not that way. You are beautiful. God sees you as beautiful. God sees you as lovely. People around you, that's the truth about who you are. There's something lovely in everyone. Don't let the enemy lie to you, and don't believe the lies that the enemy tells you, because you are not what you think you are, and you are not what the enemy says you are. And here's another thing. The enemy is not your parents, and the enemy is not your youth pastor or your youth leader. The enemy is not Momentum or any kids here that are trying to help you and love you. That's not who the enemy is. The enemy is Satan. The enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy. The enemy tells you you're ugly, you're worthless. The enemy tells you you can't do it. You're not gonna make it. You're not successful. You're never gonna make it. That's the enemy. And can I tell you, he is the same one that tells people to kill other people. He's the same one that tells someone to take a gun and to go in that school and shoot those kids in the school. He's the same one that says, listen, you need to take that car and you need to run it into that crowd of people and kill as many people as you can. He's the same one that tells a terrorist to grab a Christian and take them by the hair and grab a knife and cut their head off on YouTube or on Facebook so that everybody can see it and hold their head up and be proud of that. And that's what you're supposed to do. That's your destiny. The same Satan that tells you that you're ugly. The same Satan that tells you, listen, it's okay to take those pictures and send them. Nobody's gonna know. It's okay to talk like that. It's okay to do that kind of stuff. It's okay to be around that kind of stuff that people and your family and your parents and Christians are telling you not to do. It's the same Satan. And when you give in to him then, you're also giving in to the Satan that supports terrorism. I know that's pretty harsh. Mom and dad can't take that in and accept it, but I know you guys can. Number 3, remember what you're fighting for. Remember what you're fighting for. David's mighty men were fighting for their king. Why? Because he loved them and because they loved their king. They fought because they loved him. Everybody needs a why. Every one of you guys needs something in your life that's a why. You need to know what you're fighting for, and you need to know that what you're fighting for may cost you something. Life is not about pleasure. Life is not always about smiles. There's a lot of life that are tears. There's a lot of life that's true, just it sucks. A lot of life is like that. But here's what life is. Life is people being honest with me and loving me even though I got some things that I'm working on. That's what life is all about. You have to have a why that you do what you do. What is your why? Why are you who you are? Every one of us have a why, and sometimes they're not something that anybody knows about. I've got a great friend who is actually a millionaire. I mean, he's a multimillionaire. He's an entrepreneur. He's started lots of businesses that if I said them, you guys would actually know about him. But this young man grew up and his parents were on food stamps. His dad never could hold down a job. In fact, his dad worked 2 jobs. He would work at like Best Buy during the day, and at night he would deliver pizzas. He did the very best he could for his family, but they always struggled. And through that process, they lived on food stamps. He wore the same clothes every day because he didn't have clothes that he could wear that were different. And the kids at school would make fun of him. He said one time the boys on the bus found out that his dad delivered pizzas, and they started making fun of him, calling him pizza delivery boy. And, hey, can your dad bring a pizza over to me? And they just humiliated the kid. And that kid at just the young age of like 10 or 11 decided, I am gonna prove these boys wrong. And I am gonna make a success out of my life, and I'm gonna help my mom and dad. And my mom and dad are always gonna have a place to stay. They're always going to have food. And it was the thing that drove him. That was his why. And he became successful. He became a millionaire at 28 years old. He got his first million at 28 years old. He decided, I am not going to live like my dad did. I'm not going to live in poverty. I'm not going to live not pushing myself, but I'm going to push myself. I'm going to be the best that I can be. I'm going to strive, because his why was because he wanted to make his dad proud and he wanted to provide for his family. And he did it. He was a success because he had a why. What's your why? Why do you do what you do? Why do you go to school? Some are saying, I have no idea why I go to school. I ask kids, what'd you learn at school? Nothing. Then why'd you go? I don't know. But what is your why? In the deep of your heart, why do you do what you do? Are you trying to prove someone wrong? Are you trying to be better than people around you? Is there something in you that's pushing you to be who you should be? I want you to know something. As long as your why is pushing you towards goodness and not pushing you towards the wrong ways, let that why be the thing that pushes you on and lets you be the person that you know that you should be. Number 4. This is my last one. Oh, some of you guys are going to cheer. Yes, it's his last one. Okay. My last one, number 4, is never give up. Never give up. Verse number 10, Eleazar stood his ground and struck down the Philistines until his hand grew tired and froze to the sword. He said, I'm never going to give up. Winning the battle will cost you something. Winning the battle will cost you something. The greater the cost, sometimes the sweeter the victory. You have to make that decision. I got to let you guys know right up front. Man, I wish that being a Christian and I wish that doing the right thing was always the easy way, but it rarely is. It's usually the tough way. It's usually the way that costs you the most. Doing the right thing is usually the thing that hurts the most. It's usually the one that sacrifices the most friends. It's usually the one that is the hardest to do. But in the end, it's the right choice because you're taking the high ground. You're doing what you know is right to do. So on the opposite end, many times following the wrong friends is the easiest thing to do, but it costs you the most. Many times when you see your enemy as your parents and your girlfriend as your ally, let me tell you, there's always this battle that goes on in your life. You always see one as the enemy and the other as the enemy, and before you know it, you're going to go one way or the other. And most of the time, it's with the one that you think is the easiest way to go. But you have to understand something. The things in life that are the toughest are sometimes the right things for you to listen to and go towards. So let me just break this down to you when it comes to this kind of stuff. You got to determine who your enemy is. Your enemy is not your parents. Your enemy is not your pastors. Your enemy is not your teachers at school that are trying to get you and push you to do the very best you can. But your enemies are the doubt that you have in your head. The enemies are the ones who are trying to get you to take the easy way out of it. But if you will listen to the godly people in your life, you will always make the right choices. And everybody here needs someone godly in their life. Let me tell you something, you guys. One of the best bit of advices I ever got when I was your age, I had someone say to me one time, find the godly crowd and hang out with them. Find the godly crowd and hang out with them. I was fortunate. When I went to Broken Arrow High School, all my friends were Christians, and we were the popular kids. We were the athletes. We were the class presidents. We were all that kind of stuff, but we were all Christians, and we all helped each other become better. Now, not all of them made it. There were some casualties through the process. But the casualties were because some people were trying to pull a girl out because they wanted to do their thing with them, or pull a guy out because they wanted to do their thing, or they went here to find this group of friends that were just interested in fun or drinking or getting high or this. But the group that stayed together, the core group, is still together. We're still friends today, and we're still serving God. Every one of us are. You guys may not have that group of people. Then make them. Be that group of people. Be that group of Christians at your school. Don't always look to the ones who are just trying to be popular, trying to be cute. Find the godly crowd and hang out with them, because let me tell you, that wise counsel will be something that you'll hang on to the rest of your life. You got to understand what is wise counsel and what is not. And the way of pleasure is very rarely the way of wise counsel. I heard an old story about a kid that joined the Army right out of high school. He signed up and he thought, hey, this will be easy. I'll get me a job as a mechanic or something. It'll be easy. Well, they didn't. They signed him up and they took him to basic training, and he knew that he was slated to go to the front lines as soon as he got through training. And he was pretty scared. And he got there and he had this sergeant that was a big mouth, overbearing, didn't care about what you felt, didn't want to hear that your stomach was hurting, that you were cold, that you were tired. Didn't want to hear any of that. He was brash, he was in their face, but there's one thing that he kept yelling to these boys over and over and over again. He kept yelling, get your head down. Get your head down. They'd be standing in a line and they'd be talking or whatever. He'd come in, he'd open the door of the like the cafeteria or whatever, and he'd yell to those boys as loud as he could, get your head down. And every one of those guys it scared them to death. He'd come into their room while they were asleep at night, and he'd turn on the light and he'd yell as loud as he could, get your head down. And it was like the one thing that he just kept doing. There was no rhyme or reason to it. It just drove them crazy. They made a mockery of him. They mocked him. They hated. When those boys would lay down at night, they would hear those words going off in their mind, get your head down, get your head down. Everywhere they were at, he would yell, get your head down. And they hated this guy for it. They hated him. Finally, they packed these boys up and they sent them to the front lines. They got off their boat and they said, we want you to run up to those dugouts, those, what do they call them, foxholes, trenches. Run up to those trenches with your gun and get down in those trenches. And before they took off, that sergeant yelled as they're running, get your head down. They're like, oh. They ran and they got in the foxholes, and there's bullets flying everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere. They're down, they're hunkered down. All they hear is this sergeant yelling, get your head down, get your head down. And they got bullets flying everywhere. And finally, when the bullets stop and it gets a little bit quiet, the sergeant says, keep your head down. Don't move until I tell you to. And they just sit there, and it is for the longest time. And one of those soldiers just couldn't stand it anymore. He thought, listen, we're out here. I'm everybody for himself. It's going to be. And for one split second, he leans up to try to look over the top of that foxhole. And when he does, a shot rang out, hit him right in the middle of the forehead. His head just exploded. Every one of those soldiers saw it. As soon as the shot rang out, the one word they heard was from that sergeant, get your head down! It was real now. Those men in that foxhole stayed there for days. Many of them were killed. There were very few of them that got out alive. But that sergeant and a few of his men finally got out. They had other troops come in and were able to stop the enemy, and they were able to get out alive. Because of their bravery, because of the time that they spent, they discharged all of those men and they were able to go home. This kid said, I've got one thing and one thing only in my life that I want to do. I want to find that sergeant. I'm going to find him. He made it his lifelong ambition to find that sergeant because he wanted to see him face to face. He wanted to talk to him. And he finally found him. The sergeant had retired. He was a farmer in Iowa somewhere, and that kid found him, and he came driving up to the house and went out to the field, and there the farmer was out there on the tractor. And he walked out to him. He says, are you Sergeant whatever? Yes. He says, do you remember me? He says, yes, I remember you. He says, I want to thank you for saving my life. He says, I've hated you. I hated you so bad. I hated you for yelling, keep your head down, because we hated that. We hated to hear it. We hated to hear you say it. And we hated you because of what you said, because we didn't understand why you were telling us to do that. But he says, but I'm here today, and I saw many of my friends get killed, and I'm here to shake your hand, and I want to tell you, thank you for telling me to keep my head down because you saved my life. You guys, you know what we're doing at this church? You know what Mitch and Brooklyn do to you all the time? You know what your parents do to you? They're saying, get your head down. Get your head down. Be careful. Don't go there. Don't do that. Don't say that. Don't text that. Be careful with that person. Get your head down. Well, you don't understand my situation. You don't even know what I'm going through. I don't have to. How did that sergeant know to tell those boys to keep their head down? Because that sergeant was in that foxhole at one time. That sergeant saw his friends put their heads up and get shot and killed because they wanted to know, because nobody knows what I'm going through. This sergeant doesn't understand my situation. It's every man for himself. I'm going to stick my head up because I may have to run. Boom, it's over. Get your head down. The reason the people around you, the reason your mom and dad, the reason Mitch and me and other pastors tell you, be careful, get your head down, is because we've been there. We've seen people. We've seen them get their heads blown up. I've seen kids die. I've seen kids commit suicide. I've been in the hospital room, in the emergency room, where a dead kid is laying on a cot watching his parents come down and see his dead body. I've been there. I've seen that. I've gone into houses and seen kids that have committed suicide laying in their bed. I've been there, I've done that. And I say to you guys, keep your head down. Whatever the world's been telling you, whatever you listen to on television that's okay, I want you to know something. Keep your head down. Don't believe the lie. Don't believe the lie. What does the Bible say you are? The Bible says that you are God's son and God's daughter, that He loves you, that He paid the ultimate price for you, that He has a plan for your life. That's what God sees with you. Don't believe the lies that everybody else says. Just because that guy says, listen, if you'll send me that picture, I won't send it to anybody. Keep your head down. It's not the truth. Whenever you want to go to that party and someone's going to give you drugs or give you alcohol, and listen, it's okay. The Bible doesn't say you can't drink beer. Come on, even Jesus drank wine. You need to go back and read your Bible because that's not the truth. Get your head down. Don't believe a lie. Don't compromise your values. Don't compromise your purity because someone says they love you. Get your head down. And after it's all over with, you, along with thousands of other people, will come back to Mitch someday in Brooklyn, and you'll find them, and they'll be old and gray, and they'll have all their grandkids around them. I'll have their kids taking care of them, but their grandkids, they'll take care of them because I'm going to have all the grandkids at my house. Not grand dogs, just kids. But you're going to find Mitch, and Mitch is going to be a farmer in Nebraska somewhere. And you're going to find him out on the tractor, and you're going to come to him and say, Mitch, thanks. Thanks for loving me. Thanks for taking me out for coffee. Thanks for taking the time to reach out to me, calling me on the phone and texting me and saying you pray for it. Thanks. Thanks for teaching me to keep my head down because at the end of the day, that's the thing that mattered. Keep your head down. Keep your head down. And when you do, God will always honor what you're doing. Bow your heads with me, would you please?